I wanted to give y'all an update. So I came home from work today, and we're in our well house right now. But so one of the things that you never want to happen whenever you're away from your goats is to where if you come home and there's something that has happened to them, whether that be an injury or an illness or a death, any of the above. So I came home and Huckleberry was in his pen to where he was acting really off. And so on further inspection, right now there is one of two things that could be the culprit. One is to where he could have got his head through the fence, and one of the does in there with the pin could have head-butted him, and he could have had an injury to his neck. The other possibility, because we have had a lot of over the past few weeks, we've had a lot of up and down weather as far as temperatures, and it's been one day it's been raining, the next day it's been dry and warm. But in those particular situations, where here in Northwest Arkansas, in this region, we tend to get a lot of mold counts, and so we could be dealing with like a goat listeria or polio, which we have only had one goat in the past to ever have like a goat polio, and that was our doe Frost, to where as a kid she had some of, not the same as Huckleberry, which I'll show you in a minute what he's doing, but she would just like have her head down, walk in circles, and like flop over almost like a metonic goat, the fainting goats. That's not the case here, but as far as his behavior, but it is similar. So we could be dealing with that, but we are going to treat it as if it were a neck injury, and as if it were a listeria or polio symptom. So none of the other goats are sick. We have been treating Luna the last few days for a respiratory infection, just because we have literally gone from 80-degree weather during the day to like below freezing. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do with Huckleberry, and I'm going to show you what he's doing, so that maybe if this ever happens to y'all's goats, you can act quickly. And this is something, if it's listeria or polio, even a neck injury, you want to act as quickly as possible in order to save your goat and quality of life of your goat. And so I'm sharing this information with y'all as an educational opportunity in case this does happen. And this is what we do. It doesn't mean I'm not a vet. It doesn't mean that y'all have to do this, but I have been in touch with our vet. And so this is part of our vet's recommendation as far as treatment, but that doesn't mean that this is a cure-all, or if it'll work for your goat, or if it will work in our case. But this is what we are going to do, and I will demonstrate on what we give, how often we give, and hopefully here in the next few days he will recover regardless of what it is. So, hey everyone, so while I was editing this video, I lost the original footage to show y'all the medication. It does show that us administering it to Huckleberry, but I had gone through afterwards and done a little bit of like each one of what we did, but for some reason I had technical difficulties and I lost that. So I'm just going to remake it. So one thing, whenever you have a down goat, we just go ahead and take their temperature with a digital thermometer. You'll want to use a little bit of lube or KY for that. You can get that, you can get either one of those through your local feed store or through your local drugstore. It doesn't have to be specific, it can be generic. Whenever you have an animal that doesn't want to eat or drink or isn't able to, you always want to make sure to keep them, as far as any electrolytes in them, you want to keep the fluids in them. So one thing that we did was we drenched him with about, I think it was like 2 cups of water. I couldn't tell you how many like drench gun fulls that we had. We just have a 30cc drench gun right here. You just plunge it, and then you put this part in the back of their mouth to where it's pointing back, and then you just you just plunge. And I just sprayed my camera. Whoops. Anyway, these can be taken apart and you can wash them between each use if you're worried about germs or anything between the goats. So you want to make sure and get like a good electrolyte powder. Usually it's somewhere between like 2 to 3 tablespoons per 2 to 3 cups of water. We mix it with warm water because, with the goats, especially with cold weather right now, whenever you have something warm goes in, it's not going to chill their body, but if you have something cold going in, it's going to bring their body temperature down a little bit. So just keep that in mind. And then you can also have the electrolyte paste on hand, which we keep this on hand. We don't use it very often, but we did give him a dose of it. And then one thing that I like to do anytime that we have a sick goat, even though it's not necessary, but I do like to give it to him because it helps to give them a little bit of boost. But we give them a selenium dose of the paste, the selenium vitamin E paste. We try to give this every month to all the goats anyway. We're in like a declining selenium deficient area. It's not to that point yet, like some areas. So we give them the paste, and then Bosi, which is a prescription injectable, we give that just to the expectant does about 6 weeks, about 6 to 8 weeks before the kid. And you have to be, on the injectable, you have to be very precise on the weight because you can accidentally overdose your goat. And so that is the only time of year that we do that. And the only other time that we use Bosi, which I typically don't, I'll usually use the selenium paste, but if we have a very weak kid that can't stand once they're born. That's only happened once, and I did give a very small, like a quarter of a cc dose of injectable, and they just bounced right back up within about 12 hours. So we aren't vets, but we do work very close with our vet. And so all of this we have consulted with our vet before on, and dosing amounts and medications and which kinds and for what treatment and stuff. So I always recommend that you have a good vet contact, and that you can call up, or that you can go to with your goat if you have one that's ill. I know that sometimes people are in a rural area like us to where it's not always feasible to be able to take a goat into the vet. Like our vet is about 30 minutes away by a drive, but they have limited operation hours. So, I mean, you just want to make sure that, you have a good vet contact, and that if you have any questions about medications with them, as far as like any type of treatments, that you work hand in hand with them. Because sometimes what works for one person on an illness for their goat isn't always the same illness with another goat, or it may not be the same severity, and so it could be different treatment plan. So just keep that in mind. Moving on. So one of the things that we administered, and for the first week, every 6 hours, that we gave Huckleberry is the liquid B12, and that we gave 60 cc's every 6 hours, and that's by drench. And then if you don't have that, the alternative option is a NutriDrench, and you can do like 2 squirts per, I think it's like, well, what we do is 2 squirts per 60 cc's. So we just take a small dosing cup, doesn't have to be exact, put 2 squirts in it and fill it up to the 60 cc mark, and it's 2 of these. So that's an alternative if you don't have that liquid B12. And then you want to follow up with an antibiotic for the first week, which we just gave injectable penicillin, and our vet recommended that it's 6 cc's in the muscle every 6 hours. Now, on the bottle of penicillin, it's going to recommend 1 cc per 100 pounds. And so that's why I said we're not vets, but we work closely with our vet, and that is vet recommended there. But that may not work for another goat. That may not work, that worked for us, but he's also a Nigerian. And so if we were treating one of our Boer goats, the vet may increase that dose. So always keep that in mind. Always double check with your vet. The other thing that you want to have, and so far all of that stuff is over the counter that we gave him. Now, the first prescription medicine that we gave is thiamine, straight thiamine. It is better than your vitamin B complex, but you do have to get it through your vet, and it is a certain type of dosing. So you'll see that we gave, I think it's 3 cc's for his first injection, but it's 2 cc's every 6 hours for the first week. And that the first week is in the muscle, and then after that, it's all under the skin, subcutaneous. And that is Huckleberry in the background talking because he is doing better. And then, so if you don't have thiamine, you can get over the counter the vitamin B complex or the fortified B complex. And it's the same dosing to where it's 2 cc's of that in the muscle the first week, every 6 hours, and sub-Q in the skin, under the skin after that. And then, so one of the things that we gave him, because we didn't have any Banamine on hand, is prescription Meloxicam. It's tablet form. We just gave him 2 pills that we crushed and put into the liquid B12. And then the other thing that is recommended when treating the goat listeria or polio is the Banamine, the prescription Banamine. You can use prescription dextrose. I think it's dextrose, but it's shortened to dex is what it's called. Except that that's like, it starts out on day 1 is 6 cc's, day 2 is 5 cc's, and then goes on down for the whole entire week. I don't like to use that just because I don't see results with using it, and also it is such high dosing at first, and then you have to keep track of it. So what we do is the Banamine, and it's 1 cc once a day for 3 days in a row, and that's it for week 1. And then as long as they are still symptomatic, you do it for week 2, and again for week 3, and again for week 4, as long as the symptoms are still there. So when treating for listeria and goat polio, their symptomatic signs are the same, and then the treatment is the same, but you have to be aggressive. So the first week, it's every 6 hours for medication, around the clock. You don't want to miss it. In very, very severe cases, they recommend every 4 hours. So keep that in mind. And then the second week, it drops down to twice a day. And the third week is once a day, and the fourth week is every other day. Now, you continue that treatment until the goat has no more signs or symptoms of the listeria or polio. So that's what I wanted to share with y'all. So whenever you see the video or the continuation of this video with everything, with what we administered, you know what we're doing and what we're giving him. But I just wanted to do that since we had lost it. And yeah, that's it. All right. First. No, it's the injection.
Under skin or in the muscle?
Penicillin is in the muscle, and I would do it on the back.
Yeah.
Oh, draw back just a little on that, and then go forward just because I've had it sitting out just a little bit. In the muscle.
In the muscle again?
Yes.
Anything else for him?
No, that's it.